It was still dark out when we started walking. With headlamps as our only light source, we followed the blue blazes of the Narragansett Trail to the top of Lantern Hill. 3 of us from the day, Steve Fagan, Jenna Cho, and myself, along with Bob Andrews from the Connecticut Forest and Park Association, figured that sunrise from the 470-foot summit of Lantern Hill would make a good start to our 22-mile hike of the Narragansett Trail. The Connecticut portion of the trail is part of the CFPA's Blue Blaze Trail System, an 825-mile network of trails that stretch across the state. The first Blue Blaze trails were laid out in 1929 to provide an escape from the growing urbanization of the time. But not 2 miles into our hike, we discovered just how hard it is to get away, as the trail emerged from the woods to cross the driveway of the North Stonington transfer station and dog pound. Rather than looking for blue blazes on tree trunks, we followed trail markers on the backside of street signs. And this is what makes hiking trails in Connecticut so unique. Drive a few hours north to Vermont or New Hampshire, and you can hike for 20 miles through a large tract of wilderness. The first 3.5 miles of the Narragansett Trail took us through a farm field, over a bridge spanning the dam on Gallup Pond, and across Route 2, which fortunately at 7 a.m. is not too busy. We followed blue-blazed phone poles up Ryder Road to where Steve had made the first of 3 water drops to help us keep our loads lighter.
Water, anyone?
The trail then heads northeast, away from the noise of Route 2, following the edge of a pond on Yawbucks Brook, where we saw kingfishers and heron, as well as evidence of recent beaver activity. After 6.5 miles, it was time for a snack. We refueled by the shore of Wyosset Lake. Due to the ongoing work on the lake's dam, the water level was well below the boat launch. Fortunately, one other facility at the boat launch was in good working order. We followed the blue blazes up the paved road and continued into the Patchogue State Forest on a mixed-use trail that hikers share with motorcycles. Our next scenic vista came about 8 miles in at High Ledge. The nearby shelter would have been a nice place to spend the night, but it was only 10 a.m. and our day was just getting started. Just before crossing the border into Voluntown, Steve stopped us and pointed out a small opening in the rocks that otherwise might have gone unnoticed. Descending with headlamps, we discovered a small chamber known as the Bear Cave. Thankfully, we didn't find any bears or any other wildlife inside. At about the halfway point, we emerged onto the longest paved stretch of the Narragansett Trail. Walking along the shoulder of Route 49 at first seemed antithetical to the whole wilderness experience. But after 12 miles, it had dawned on me that this is all part of the experience of hiking in Connecticut. The pavement was just another example of the varied terrain we would be traversing. After a lunch break on the lawn of the First Baptist Church, we followed the trail onto land owned by the Groton Sportsman's Club. The shooting range and hunting preserve is closed from October to March, but if you hike through in the summer, you'll see a menagerie of animal-shaped targets that, if you're not looking for them, can catch you by surprise. As the day wore on, it seemed like the terrain got more difficult, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't just my tired legs. 15 miles into the hike, we came to a rocky ravine on the Greenfall River that many years ago was the site of a mill. As we scrambled over rocks for half a mile up to the dam at Greenfall Pond, it was hard to believe that anyone had actually built something here. After 18 miles and 10.5 hours, we finally came to a column marking the Rhode Island border and the end of the Connecticut portion of the Narragansett Trail.
We just hit Rhode Island, so I think we have about an hour and a half left.
I don't know if it was overconfidence or our inability to read a map.
About an hour to an hour and a half.
But we called to arrange a pickup. And then we took off down the road. Unfortunately, it was in the wrong direction. With the help of a map and compass, we got our bearings and found the Rhode Island portion of the Narragansett Trail, blazed in yellow by the Appalachian Mountain Club. This is where we're supposed to be going in the woods. Back on the trail, no one really wanted to guess how long our little detour had been. The terrain only got more difficult, passing through a swamp where there was often no obvious dry place to put your boot down. As the sun sunk lower in the sky, we all got a lot quieter. For 20 miles, our hike had been filled with lively conversation, but as we trudged through the final miles, if anyone had anything to say, it was probably about how much farther we had to go. Though it's hard to appreciate it with tired legs, the final stretch between L Pond and Long Pond was some of the most beautiful terrain we saw. But the steep rock formations that made it so beautiful also made it very difficult. After 21 miles, no one was really in the mood to stop and take pictures. The tough thing about a hike like this is that there's no big reward, except your own sense of accomplishment. There was no towering summit to brag about, and no fanfare when we met our ride at the trailhead at Ashville Pond, 2.5 hours after we had called him. After somewhere around 23 miles and 13 hours on the trail, there was only a round of handshakes and a ceremonial group photo.